What's up, Dragon Brood? It's that time of year again. We got a new set, Spider-Man this time, and we're going to talk about some cards that you either haven't really thought much about, or maybe you have and you're wondering how good they really are. Well, you're going to get the opinions of not just me, but my good friend Dev, who's here to visit for the day. So, how's it going, man?
Man, you're going to get those opinions whether you like it or not. I'm fantastic. I actually think that this set, and I'll say this in the other video we're cutting today. I think the set's getting a bad rap. I think the set has some good mechanics, some fun, clean, powerful mechanics, and even outside of the mechanics, some just good overall cards. Weirdly, in our overrated list, we're going to look at some of the most popular cards in the set everyone's looking for. In this one, we're going to try to highlight some cards that maybe no one is talking about or more people should be talking about. And I think that there are a lot more of these in this set than there are overrated cards. You can
Yes.
pick sleepers. Yeah, like crazy. It's much harder for me to make this list. You can pick sleepers like crazy. And I do have 10 other cards I'm going to be looking at over on my channel that I think are kind of sleeperish from this set. But it was still very easy to pick an extra 5 for this video because that's how much I think the set is kind of going overlooked. A lot of people skipping this set, which I think is, if that's your personal preference, that's fine. But as far as like learning what magic cards are going to be good in standard, I think it is a tactical error because there's a lot of really good stuff in here.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too. I will say, as we're recording this, we just saw the Omenpath stuff get previewed, so we don't have time to connect it all. If I'm gonna cross my fingers. If I have time in editing, I might put up the Omenpath card with the regular card. We'll see. But we're gonna be focusing on the paper cards for the most part today. Also, if you don't like Universes Beyond, if you don't like Spider-Man, whatever the case is, that's awesome. Not gonna force your opinion here. I just want sweet cards and sweet abilities. I don't really care what's arts on them. However, if you leave comments that you're just gonna be a knucklehead, and to be honest, if you're just bitching about Universe Beyond, it's expected to get deleted and or you get blocked. We don't have time for it. We're
Wow.
trying we're trying to have some fun here. We're just talking about cards that exist. They're going to exist one way or the other. We might as well give you some information that helps you decipher how good or bad they are.
All right. I like that stance. You take taking a hard line stance on sourpusses.
Yep.
And that's good because there are a lot of them out there. And I think that there are things to celebrate about this set. If you want to grouse and gripe, then we've got the overrated video for you. We probably got both. I know I've got a channel or a video on my channel talking about kind of my real feelings on this set. Don't worry, I don't hate it. don't think I'm on your side or anything if you do hate it, because I think there's redeemable things about this set, and we're going to talk about at least a few of them today. So I can't wait to get to it.
Yeah, speaking of, why don't we kick it off and you give us your number 5?
Ooh, I get to go first. Okay, so this one is a value saga. I've actually got two value sagas on my list, but I couldn't choose between them. My number 5 is the card that I have the least faith in and on this whole list, but I still
Okay.
wanted to include it somewhere. It's called Kraven's Last Hunt. This is
Hmm.
4 mana. It's 3 and a green for an enchantment. It's a saga. Chapter 1, you mill 5 cards. When you do, this saga deals damage equal to the greatest power among creature cards in your graveyard to target creature. On chapter 2, a creature you control gets +2/+2 till end of turn. That's kind of boring. On chapter 3, return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is a green removal spell that'll usually take something down, even if you don't have a creature in your graveyard when you cast it. I like that about it. Um, and on the third chapter, it'll bring something back from your hand or from your yard to your hand, which is good because it milled 5 cards. So whether you're getting back just like a nice value 3 or 4 drop creature, that's kind of good. But you might get back 6 and 7 drops that you built your entire deck around. And when you dump them in your yard in the first place, they deal like 7 damage to a thing. Like kind of a sorcery speed 4-drop removal spell, so I don't love that about it. But at the end of the day, it's a removal spell in a color that doesn't get good removal. It helps you mill cards. It's good in Reanimator decks. It's good in decks with Esper Origins, even though it isn't obviously Esper Origins. Still good in those decks. And at the end of the day, I believe that the third chapter is pretty good value too. 4 mana for a 2-for-1 over a couple of turns with the bridge ability being boring but still useful. I think this is a decent saga.
The funny thing about it is I looked at this and went, okay, chapter 1 makes sense. I could put this in a few decks. Maybe it's I'm just wanting to fill the graveyard for a reanimator thing.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm wanting to play it with like the green black enchantment, right? Where you put stuff in the graveyard, get the plants or whatever, right? Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah, Insidious Roots, yeah.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
thing. Like, I was thinking, okay, cool. Then I get to chapter 3 and I'm like, okay, just return a thing to your hand. It doesn't reanimate it, but I get the best thing in my graveyard. That's kind of cool. All right. The only thing that was weird about it to me was chapter 2 because it's just like, all right, dude gets +2 +2. Like, you
Yeah,
know, like it's so
that's why
anticlimactic compared to the rest of the card.
that's why I kind of skip past his. Hey, yeah, 2+2. It's a
Yeah.
boring, but
It would be cool if it gave something like +2 +2 and trample.
yeah, like a keyword would be nice.
Yeah. Like,
Even if it was just vigilance or something, I'd take it.
yeah, that's the only downside I have to the card. Otherwise, I could see some more where you play like 2 copies of this, like we're saying, any Insidious Roots deck, or some deck that cares about creatures returning and triggering stuff or whatever. Or where you're looking for a combo piece or something, right? You need certain
Yeah,
creatures. That's a way to kind of mill some and get something back. So like, yeah, I think it has some uses.
I think this goes especially well with Overlord of the Bale Merc because they both want to be in decks that mill, like self mill you. And, if you mill an Overlord of the Bale Merc into your yard, that'll mill you 5 cards, right? You'll be able to do like, what is it, 5 or 6 damage to a creature with
Yeah,
Overlord in your yard. And then later you'll just return the Overlord to your hand and cast it and mill more. And, just for these kind of graveyard self mill decks, it seems good. My only real issue in those decks is that if you're also playing swamps in your deck, you probably have better removal than this. But you
sure.
don't have a lot of good removal that also mills 5 and returns a guy to your hand. It's just altogether, it's enough value for me. We'll see how it works. I think that you probably do just play Esper Origins in the 4-drop slot if you want a good saga or whatever. In your self mill deck. But again, it works well enough with like alongside Esper Origins that I think it's fine. So I don't know. I'm kind of interested in like maybe mono green decks. There's got to be something for it,
Yeah,
So just remember it exists, I guess, is all I'm saying. Because at the very, very, very least, I think that it's a serviceable green removal spell, and you don't get enough of those. So
true.
yeah, but that's my number 5. I want to know yours.
My number 5 is also a green card. And this might be, of the cards I've seen in the set, the closest thing to becoming a commander staple, but also a surprisingly possibly good card in standard. But we're talking about Web of Life and Death.
I knew it was going to be when you described it. I was like, it's going to be that web card.
This thing, like, I think the first thing people, because I did the same thing, right? You see the casting cost, and you go, oh, it's 8 mana, whatever.
But
Six,
not really.
yeah, you got 6 green, whatever. It's an enchantment, but it has Convoke, and that makes a huge difference. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, which is interesting that it's not during your upkeep or instep or whatever. It's the beginning
Yeah.
of combat. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. So it's pretty hard to miss. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This just feels like perpetual value, right? Like even if I'm
Yeah.
playing against a control deck or something and I get to play this, let's say for 4 or 5 mana, right? Because I'm not going to want to tap all my creatures to cast it, but
Yeah.
let's say I play it on turn 4, 5, 6, something like that. Like then it just becomes a thing your opponent has to remove, right? Like because otherwise, it's just like, okay, well, I got another creature. All right, I got another creature, and it's not casting. You're just getting it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is
This
good, and for commander, I think it's just way better.
I think the
Like,
card's fantastic there. Yeah.
yeah,
I think this card is I'm going to compare these two cards, and somebody in the comments section is going to be like, but, and okay, so I'm not going to say that these are the exact same cards or anything, but this reminds me in a sideways manner of the Great Henge. And that's a good card, man.
yeah, it's still a great card.
Yeah, still goes for like $40 in
Mhm.
Commander. This again is not that card or anything, but it does benefit you having a fair number of creatures on the table. I don't love that you probably like, okay, you cast this and you probably can't swing that turn, and you're probably not very well protected from the crackback because you tapped all those guys down. I also just saying logistically don't like that you want to play it in a deck full of like little guys so you can convoke it in as quickly as
Oh, I'm
possible.
not even thinking about little guys. Like it could just
Man,
be a normal regular deck, and I'm playing 2 copies of this.
maybe it's just like if you play 3 creatures on curve, 1, 2, 3, like that, then you're still not really at this card on the next turn. Like you're not playing it until turn like
Oh,
5
I don't expect to ever
in
play
that
it till turn
case.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
That's the
Well, there
trick
you
to
go.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to play it early. This is the backup plan for the creature decks.
That's
Un
fair. You
unless
know,
you're playing a bunch of tokens, or whatever. Because in Commander, you can play a billion different things. So,
yeah.
like, if you are playing tokens, then, like, sure, go ham and just play it on turn 4,
That's just it, you know. I feel like in the overrated video, spoilers for that video, we talked about the rabbits deck a couple of times. You know, oh, maybe the
Mhm.
rabbits deck could use this card. This is another one that I think might go fairly well in the rabbits deck. They've got enough dudes laying around, and they've got enough good hits for the card. If you hit Regal Bunnycorn, if you hit
Yeah.
what is it, Beauregard Mentor,
Mhm.
the trample guy with power toughness as big as the creatures you control, you could there are real hits in that deck.
Oh,
So
hear me out.
yeah.
We're playing elves, and we can just go look for Crater Hoofs.
Crater Hoof. Yeah,
Like,
that's
it's a
the
backup Crater Hoof, right?
that's the number one thing I've heard about this card is like you play 2 Crater Hoofs and 1 copy of this card. And like I don't know how I feel about it because sometimes it's just gonna whiff and hit like a lot of
But no,
aura,
you're probably at
you
least getting
know?
an Elf Lord because 'cause you're playing, like, 12 of them in the deck,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
right? So your
And
creatures
going
get
into
a
your
bonus.
combat step, that's pretty
Exactly.
good. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, like, I don't know, like, it feels like there's uses for this, and I honestly think this could be one of those cards long term that becomes a commander card that probably never drops below $25-$30.
Perhaps it's again like it's kind of the same story as the Great Henge. You know, get it if you can get it for $20, get it now because it'll be. And I'm not. This is not financial advice, but this is one of those that looks like a few years from now it could be an all time Commander green staple. If it doesn't get reprinted, it'll be too high. This does look like a great Commander card, but as far as the standard goes, I think there's a chance. I agree with that. End of the day,
I will also say this, that I don't know if Web of Life and Destiny is trademarked to Spider-Man as
yeah,
part of the lore, but it's a generic enough name that they could just reprint the card as is.
yeah, that's important when that happens. To
Yeah.
point out in this set.
And it
So
and it feels like that's an intentional thing on some cards. I will say that.
yeah, agreed.
But all right, that
um,
rolls us into your number 4, I believe it is.
Yeah, my number 4 is also a pretty generic name that could be reprinted into any set. It's Origin of Spider-Man. This is this is 2 mana, not really. This is 2 mana, 1 and a white for a saga. On chapter 1, create a 2/1 green spider creature token with reach. On chapter 2, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. It becomes a legendary spider hero in addition to its other types. On chapter 3, a creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. So what we have here is a 2 mana 3/2 double strike.
Mm.
That's pretty good. It only has double strike on like one turn of the game, but if you're playing it on curve, I do want to point out that you're giving a creature you control double strike on turn 4, which is a pretty snazzy turn to give a creature double strike in current like aggro decks, right?
Yeah.
Um, just 2 mana for a 2/1 with a keyword ability is fine. And if you happen to have a 1 drop, besides Origin of Spider-Man, you can put the counter on something else, you know? And that's just on curve. I think that this card is still kind of fine later on. You don't get around till turn 3, and then turn 5 or 6 or whatever it is. I guess on turn 3 it would give the creature double strike. If you no, yeah, it's turn 4 if you play the creature if you play this on turn 2. I'm sorry. If you play this on turn 4, turn 6, you give a creature double strike, which isn't that bad either. So I guess what I'm trying to say, after all that hemming and hawing, is that this, even off curve, is still an acceptable magic card. Goes well in decks that want +1/+1 counters, goes well in spider decks because it actually kind of creates 2 spiders. When you think about it, like your other guy doesn't have to be a spider. He just is a spider now
Yeah.
after you play this card.
Yeah.
And I just think double strike is a good ability, even on a delay. I think double strike is fantastic. All you have to have is a trampler and you're in the money.
Yeah,
So,
effectively.
yeah, I mean, I think this is like a really, really good magic card. And it also kind of helps that I can't think of too many incredible white 2 drops at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of it as well. Is like you're getting a creature anyway. So you're getting a 2 mana 2/1. It does have reach, right? That's not irrelevant in a world of, mono red where they're trying to attack you in the air with fires or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
you
Like,
got spyglass sirens and deep
yeah,
cavern
like,
bats, and
so that's real. I don't think that's too crazy. Like, But and I think the thing that helps the card is kind of to your point, it can go into a few different decks, right? Are we playing it in a token deck? Are we playing it in spiders decks? Are we playing in +1/+1 counter decks,
Counter
right?
decks, enchantments decks. It's an enchantment.
Yeah,
There's
so it at least has a chance to show up more places, right? I think that's the biggest thing. For while we might look at it and go, well, overall power is just okay, it at least has the odds of showing up in more places. Because some one of the things that happens on our overrated list is that yeah, we're accepting that some of the cards are powerful, but how many places can they show up and how many copies are you playing?
right.
Whereas this feels like one where, all right, if I am playing it, I'm probably playing like 3 copies.
Yeah, I think you could
You
probably
know?
jam 4 of this and it'd be, like, fine, you
Yeah.
know?
But like we're
It
saying, it also has a chance to show up in more decks, right? Because
right.
it's more different types. So that
Yeah.
alone can make it better than a lot of people are thinking it is.
It works on a lot of axes. It doesn't just do one thing. It can be bargained away. It can be blinked. It can be reanimated with Iridia. She does that. There's
Yeah.
there's like 5 things. It triggers Constellation. There's a lot that this can do, I think. So I don't know. Just kind of keep your eye on it. I think it's so much value for only a couple of mana. It's another one where like the middle ability might look a little bit boring or whatever, but like altogether, I think when you factor in like you're only paying 2 mana, it's a really
I
efficient
don't even
magic
think the
card.
middle ability is boring because you're growing a creature, and if you are playing it in the spider deck, it can allow you to play some number of non-spiders that can now get the benefits.
Exactly. And there might be a few guys you got your eye on for those purposes.
Mhm.
So no, just not terrible. And I haven't really seen anybody talk about it. Maybe because it's one of the first cards we saw spoiled before the main batch of spoilers. So it's
Probably.
kind of old hat now. But I think this is one you got to pay attention to. It's not bad. But what then is your number, whatever we're on? 4?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one's a lot of fun, and I knew there had to be some version of this character in the set, and it actually is pretty decent and representative of the card, but it's Carnage, Crimson Chaos.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
2 black red, so you got 4 mana for a symbiote villain for a 4/3 trample. Also, by the way, it's cool that the symbiotes actually don't count as spiders, I noticed in this set,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. But it's a 4/3 trample, so already reasonable for 4 mana. But when it enters, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It has to attack each combat if able, and when it deals damage to a player, sacrifice it. And the card itself has mayhem for black and red. So, first things first, okay, just on rate, 4 mana, 4/3 trample, fine, reasonable for the cost. Getting a thing that's 3 or less from the graveyard, really cool, especially
Yep.
if you're playing other stuff like what is it? The sunset, whatever, the 4/1 menace, put a counter on a thing when you
Oh, put a
attack it.
counter on a guy that
Yeah.
they control. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're getting it back and it dies when it damages an opponent, fine, but at least you guarantee you get the 4 through, right? This is
Oh,
also
yeah,
really
the Rakshasa guy, that dude, like a 5/5 trample for 2 mana.
that's
Yeah,
a good
that
one
dude.
too, right? Cost
Yeah.
3 or less, right? There's a lot of cool stuff going on with this card that you can do and be super aggressive with Rakdos if you want to.
Yep.
Also, randomly, could be a decent blink target or reanimator target of some variety because it's
Mhm.
just when it enters, it doesn't have to be cast.
Yep.
And if you're playing the Mayhem deck, getting a 4/3 for 2 mana after you've discarded it, or I guess technically discard to anything, doesn't have to be the Mayhem deck. And then you also get a 2 mana or less thing from your graveyard, all for 2 mana,
Yep.
right? That's pretty powerful. Like I could genuinely see this showing up in a few different decks.
Oh, many. I could see like a sort of Rakdos Reanimator deck being sort of like an aggro Reanimator deck, kind of being based mostly around this card. I think this is probably the strongest card with Mayhem in the set. There's a few really good ones, but I think this is probably the best one. And I'm a little surprised I haven't seen people talk about it that much either. This gives you 7 mana value for 2 mana.
Yeah, potentially.
That's crazy. Like most cards can't do that, and it can do it for you relatively early. It don't cost much to discard a card, Hoss. We got what is it, Pumpkin Bombardment or whatever it is in
Yeah.
this set. It's like 1 mana, discard a card, hit a target for 3. That goes insanely well with this. Blow up one of their
Okay.
guys, and for a total of 3 mana, you get a 4/3 and something else. Like, geez,
Want to hear
Louise, man.
something crazy how you can blow out your opponent?
Hmm.
All right. So your opponent's going to attack because you don't even have a board right now.
Yeah.
Right? You've got 4 mana up. You decide you're going to destroy one of their creatures and discard a card. Then you pay 2, you get a Carnage, but Carnage comes in and you get another thing out of the graveyard. you potentially wipe out 3 creatures during that combat, and you're the only one that has anything going into the next turn.
Yeah. Can you mayhem against timing restrictions?
I believe so.
Can you do that? Like, you mayhem the creature into
Let
play
me
on their
let me
turn?
double check because I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure Mayhem works like the other ability we had in the
With
past.
madness,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, madness I know ignores timing restrictions. If mayhem does too, that's why I thought that was like the downside. Like I thought that was the trade-off with mayhem is that it doesn't ignore timing restrictions.
Let's see. Allows you to cast a card from your graveyard as an alternative cost if you discarded it from your hand that turn, provided you follow. Nope, says normal timing restrictions. So we
Dang,
can't do that.
okay. Whew,
Darn it.
that's
That would have been
dang.
awesome.
Now, I will still say, following your example, if it's our turn, we just untapped and drew our card for turn. We have no creatures on the table. The same thing holds
Oh,
true.
sure. I'm still doing
You
it.
know, yeah, for effectively 2 mana, I get like 2 guys, 7 mana value on the table. That's insane, man. And if I have like some way of giving dudes haste and like Carnage has the haste
Oh,
too,
sure.
absolutely insane. I think that this is way too much mana value for way too little mana, and it's so easy to discard a card like for free. Like I don't even have to have a spell in my hand or a mana to my name to discard a card.
Yeah.
In standard right now, it's easy enough to pull that off. So yeah, I think that there's probably going to be some like imagine this at the top end of say an Alesha Rakdos deck. And now you've got like 2 legends that can reanimate guys, you know, in Rakdos. I think that could be phenomenal. So
Also,
yeah.
art wise, this is one of the cleanest looking versions of
Oh
Carnage,
yeah.
too. Like
Yeah.
on the main set card, really cool.
Carnage is my favorite guy. It's like Carnage and then Venom in Spider-Man are like my 2 favorite guys. So I'm glad that they both got like relatively strong cards. Although I think it's worth noting that the Venom, the mono white Venom also reanimates stuff. And the Rakdos Carnage just blows them out of the water in terms of
Mhm.
like how good the 2 cards look to me, at least, you know.
Imagine playing
Uh,
Rakdos with Carnage and Alesha in the build.
that's what I
Like,
was just saying.
yeah, stuff
I,
just never
yeah.
stays in the graveyard.
Yeah, that's I just said that. It's like
Yeah,
wait,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah, you can't keep stuff down. You know, like that seems like pretty tempting to me too. And sometimes you can even Alesha off of the Carnage.
Yeah.
That's wild, you know? Like I seriously think this card's going places too. So yeah, really good pick. I'm glad you picked it so I didn't have to. We got to talk about it. It's a great card. It really is.
All right, let's move on to number 3 for you.
All right, let's see. Number 3 is one that honestly, this card is like a little pricey, to be honest, but I think it's mostly people talking about commander stuff with it. But this is called Friendly Neighborhood. This is 4 mana, 3 and a white for an aura. It's an enchantment that enchants a land. When this aura enters, create 3/1/1 green and white human citizen creature tokens. Enchanted land has 1 tap. Target creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn for each creature you control. Activated sorcery speed, which is a bit of a womp womp. I would love if it was instant speed, but it'd be really strong in instant speed.
Yeah.
Do know that this ability kind of costs 2 mana because you're tapping the land that this is enchanted to down as well. But even at 2 mana, I think that again, we'll bring up the bunnies deck. You know, in the bunnies deck, this you go like, you know, turn 1, whatever you want to. You get Paul Patch Recruit, turn 2, Beauregard Mentor, turn 3, Hop to it, the thing that makes the 3 tokens. Turn 4, this. How big is your Beauregard Mentor? How big is your Regal Bunny Corn? Like a 9/9 or something? It's crazy. Like, this is yet another thing that puts a bunch of stuff into play, but unlike Hop to it, this can be blinked. This can be bounced. This can be somehow reanimated. You know, I'm sure there's a way. But 3 repeatable 1/1 tokens. I'm old. I come from Cloud Goat Ranger times when you could play a 5 mana 3/3, and as long as it gave you 3/1/1s, you were really, really happy about that. This is less mana. It's a lot harder to remove than, say, a creature that creates tokens when it comes into play. This too can be bargained. This too can be, you know, trigger Constellation or whatever if you need that. But ultimately, I think this is way better than it looks because I think you'll be getting way more than just 3 tokens out of it if you're doing it right.
Yeah, when I saw this card, I was kind of thinking about what could we ultimately do with this? Like, where does this live, right? Because 3/1/1s isn't nothing. You know, I
Yeah,
mean, it is 4 mana. It's a little bit steep for 3/1/1s, but if you have something with trample or something with flying, well, then pretty much every time you're attacking, it's like, okay, this thing gets plus whatever, right?
right.
Plus
You
5,
know,
plus 6, whatever the situation is. Does the life gain deck want this, right? Because
could be.
you get
Yeah.
hell, probably 6 or 7 life gain triggers or whatever, right? Whenever this
Yep.
is right from the 3 tokens. So like that could be a thing. Token decks obviously could play this because it's just 3 tokens, trigger all your stuff,
Yeah,
whatever.
the Caretaker's Talent decks and
Yeah.
stuff, yeah.
Also, give a creature +1 or whatever, which is whatever for like 4 creatures or whatever the case is. So yeah, I don't know. This is one of those ones that I don't think it's going to show up a lot of places, but the places
Yeah.
it does, it's going to be super annoying when you see it.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of a key card and from time to time. I'm not saying it's gonna be busted or anything, but I do think that there's gonna be more uses than people kinda currently see in standard
I mean, it
for a
can
card like
turn
this.
even the most basic creature into a must block now, though, right? Right? You're going to be
Yeah.
attacking with 3 or 4 things, and they're going to be like, "Well, I have to block the 7/7 or whatever," like because it has +1/+1 for all the creatures. So stuff like that. So I don't know where this ends up, but it's a sweet card, man.
Yeah, I think this is it's probably slightly too expensive for this deck, but it's not a bad application. Think about this in the Pixie decks. All of their guys fly. Like
Yeah,
you play this, you get your 3/1/1s to block on the ground, then you play your Pixie, and like this whole thing is 5 mana. This whole play this into Nurturing Pixie, pick it back up. That was 5 mana, and then eventually, when you play it again, you'll have God knows how many creatures. You can give your
sure.
Flying Pixie +7/+7. There are applications.
That's not the
There are.
craziest thing, honestly. That's more than reasonable.
It's not bad. So, yeah, I think the card might go somewhere end of the day. There's something to do with, a thing that just gives you 3 things when it comes into play. That's not bad. But what is now your number 2 ski? 3 ski. 3.
Yeah. Like here's this card, and honestly, this is one where I feel like I have to be overthinking this card because I feel like I haven't seen all that many people mention this, and
Hmm.
it seems like it's one of the best cards to do the thing that it does, but that's Hide on the Ceiling.
Oh yeah, my
Ex-
entire chat loved this card. Yeah,
yeah, X
my
and a
whole
blue.
community's into this.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, right? It's X and a blue. It's an instant, which is kind of crazy to me. This feels like it should be a sorcery, but whatever. Exile X target artifacts and or creatures. Return the exile cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. This is super good.
Yeah.
Like I do, like literally, I've stared at this card probably for about 5 minutes and just went, okay, why would I not want to play this card?
In like a lot of decks.
It's a pretty small list, man. Like,
Yeah.
because here's the thing: even if you're just playing creatures, it protects your stuff from a sweeper. Like you could literally just be attacking. They're like, okay, I'm gonna Ultima. You're like, sweet, I'm gonna pay 4 and save 3 creatures.
Yeah.
I
That's all
just
you
get
gotta
them
do.
back during the end step.
Even if you only have 2 mana, it's still a protect one important guy
Yes.
spell. That's not bad.
And that's assuming you have no enter the battle trigger. You're just like, I just want to keep attacking and I want to save my dudes. Like that's the worst case scenario for this card. But even a one of in something like synthesizer decks is crazy, right? You blink everything out, comes back, you trigger your synthesizer like 4 times, you get a whole
Yep.
bunch of golems or whatever, right? Like there's so many applications for this card. I'm just
Yep,
like,
it repeats into the battlefield triggers like you were saying. It saves guys like you were saying, but used offensively, it's good too. Like there's too many applications. Like if I'm reading the card right, you can do it at the end of your opponent's turn, and then they won't come back into play until the beginning of your end step. So
yeah,
you can effectively make it, make all your creatures unblockable. Like effectively,
yeah,
they just don't have dudes to block your guys. In a tempo deck, that seems righteous. Like, it seems insane. If you remember how good March of Swirling Mists
yep.
was in Kamigawa, this is effectively just that card.
Let me do you one
And
better. You can eliminate your opponent's tokens because
yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
say artifacts and or creatures you control. You can just be like, I'm going to pay 3 and I don't want these tokens in the way anymore.
nope, get rid of those tokens. Get rid of those Simulacrum Synthesizer tokens if you're playing against it,
Yep.
A lot of blue tempo decks are going to love a card like this. I wouldn't be surprised if Demir plays a one of.
Yep.
And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if there was like a straight up mono blue tempo deck, like Tolarian Terror's back because of this card. This is a fog effect when you need it to be. It's a save a guy effect when you need it to be. It's a you can't block my guys effect when you need it to be. And all of it's instant speed, which is
That's what
why
I'm saying. Like, I don't know
that's
how this
crazy.
card isn't more hyped. I for real just like I said, I've stared at it over and over. I'm like, I have to be misreading something or something just like it just seems too good.
To say if it makes you feel any better when my chat and I, we looked at this card on the Thursday that we reviewed spoilers live, and my entire chat was like, "Bro, this card's a bomb." So like, there are people out there.
Good. There has to be somebody, because I'm
Yeah.
just like, I literally thought, okay, this would be the rare that's like $30-$40 in the set, right?
No.
Because I
What
mean,
is it?
again, I don't care if you're playing Commander, if you're playing Modern, if you're playing Legacy, there's a use for this card everywhere.
Yeah.
Even for, like we're saying, for just 2 or 3 mana, it has a high upside.
It's interesting that there are similar cards to this card, but nothing that I can remember off the top of my head that's been printed like this cleanly.
You know why?
Right?
Because one, it's an instant instead of a sorcery.
Yeah.
It's just 1 blue and X, so there's no like blue XX, nothing crazy,
Right.
right?
None of that.
It also doesn't only target your stuff.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, right? Because usually we get these things that like it targets your creatures or whatever, or if it can target anything, they immediately come back. This
Right.
wipes them
Right.
out until it does. Literally, it's the best version of this ability.
Right. Period. It's a thing that Blue's done forever. But now this is like the optimal version, I think, in some ways of this ability. Now, March, you can play for less mana by exiling blue cards or whatever. But ultimately, again, this is such a clean version of this effect that like this sees play.
Has to.
Absolutely sees play. Somewhere, sometime.
Yeah.
This effect has been good in the recent past, and I don't see why it wouldn't be good.
I
now,
generally don't
so.
see how, if I'm playing, let's say, some Simic aggro deck, I'm not playing at least 2 of these.
Yeah, right. Yeah, in Simic especially, it's like freaking tastic in a deck like Simic. Anything super tempo oriented, this card is a banger.
Yeah, but like worst case scenario, it's like, okay, well, you just don't have blockers. Here I come. Take 7. You know what I mean?
Picture this in the Simic Tifa deck, because now you have a card that both protects your Tifa and makes sure that all your stuff gets through unblocked.
Also true.
It's just that seems good. That seems like a fine card.
And it's an instant. Why is it an instant? Like, I don't.
Come on. Agreed. But,
oh yeah. Wow. Anyway, well, I'm done just like drooling over this thing. What's your number 2? I guess.
I honestly feel like that could have been both of our number ones. Like, that was a really good pick. My number 2 is an uncommon, which I don't know that we've covered one of those yet. This is Morbius, the Living Vampire. Gotta be better than the movie, right? This is 4 mana, 2 a blue and a black for a 3/1 legendary vampire scientist villain with flying and vigilance and lifelink. So 4 mana for a 3/1 flying vig lifelink is fine, but that's not what I like about the card. This has, for 2 mana, Dimir colors, exile it from your yard. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them in your hand, the rest go on the bottom in a random order, or in any order, really. So you just get Anticipate out of your graveyard at instant speed.
Yeah.
That's so good. This is one of the cheapest cards in the set. I'm not going to talk too much about price, but this is one of the few cards in the set you can get for like $2-3 right now. And that puts it on the extreme low end of cards in the set. And it's not because it's uncommon either. There's a bunch of uncommons that are like $15 in this set right now. So that doesn't explain it. I don't know why people don't see why like this is crazy. Am I wrong?
I think this is solid. I don't know. I don't think it's crazy, but I do think it's very good.
Yeah, maybe crazy wasn't the right word to use, but I do think this is like 4 of playable in
I think what throws
I don't know what you
people
kick
off,
out.
I think what throws people off is that it's a 3/1, instead of like a 3/2 or something for 4 mana. Because again, those decks, and I think we talked about it on the other videos, that, when there's something like Enduring Curiosity at 4, or trying to set up a play for a Kaito or something, that sort of ties up the mana on the turns you would want to be using a Morbius a lot of the times. So that's a little tough, but I mean, if you get this down, or again, we're in a world where there's practically enough vampires to just try to do the vampire thing.
And I didn't even think about that.
And you could back it up with Hide on the Ceiling, because that card's stupid, right? Like, then this has even more upside, and it's totally reasonable.
Maybe, okay, I should make this clear. I don't care if I ever resolve this card to the table. If I draw it sometimes, that's fine. I'll play it if I got 4 open mana. I guess that's fine. But I just want to like mill this into my yard and then just have Anticipate in my hand for the rest of the game. Like in self-mill decks, like Sultai self-mill or something, like sometimes you'll draw it and it's kind of a fine, like 3-power flying lifelink. Okay, that's not terrible. So sometimes you'll draw it and you'll gain like 6 life off of it because you'll get in 1 attack, you'll block with it because it has vigilance. and it'll die. And once it's dead, it's in your yard. You can do the anticipate. But mostly, I just like it in like Esper Origins kind of Sultai Mill
Yeah.
decks. They're putting a bunch of cards in their yard, and now they just have access. It's like, think about like the interface on Arena. When this goes into your yard, it just puts an anticipate in your hand.
Yeah.
That's wild. I actually think that is like phenomenally good. I get like Narcomoeba vibes, kind of. I get deep analysis vibes from this card, and those are both like legendary Magic cards. Um, just because you can play a card out of your yard doesn't make it good. But when the card is acceptable when it's on the table in the first place, and it's not too expensive or whatever, when the card is cheap to play out of your graveyard, all these things, and when it's a good ability. We've got all these cards in standard right now that have like renew. I think that was in Tarkir
Hmm.
Dragonstorm. That ability hasn't seen much play, but that's because most of those are lower end abilities. The ability itself is sorcery speed. None of that applies. This is a good, cheap ability at instant speed, and that I think is very easy to mill like 2 copies of into your yard really early. And I don't know. I think that value like this has been top cut before, and I think it can be again. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
think
wonderful.
that's the biggest thing is it's for those self-mill type decks. This is the card that wants it, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times in those self-mill decks, you're looking for a card, right? Whether it's the Insidious Roots, the
Yeah.
Cosmogoyf, the whatever, right?
Yeah. This is busted in roots specifically.
Yeah,
This is very good in roots.
this makes
Yeah.
it so much easier to find the card you're looking for while also filling your graveyard with creatures. So yeah, I don't think it's bad. It'll definitely find a home in a few spots. And it's an uncommon, so the ceiling can be very low for this card and definitely achieve the ceiling.
Yeah. I agreed. So yeah, just all together, it is. I can't. This is one of those. You said you looked at the last card for like 5 minutes, and you're like, "This is amazing." And I feel like I'm having the same experience with this. At the end of the day, I really like this thing, but at the same time, I also want to know your number two. So
Well,
what's up
my
with
number
that?
2 is a bit interesting because a card that we have right now that's similar to this, I actually don't play that much and I'm not a huge fan of. But this one I think could get people's attention and it's Radioactive Spider.
Oh yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's 1 green for a 1/1. It's a spider, obviously, it's in the name. Reach, Death Touch, and you can pay to sacrifice this creature, search your library for a spider hero card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Activate only as a sorcery. This is just a solid card. Now, don't be wrong, we have a version of this already in standard that has, I believe, Reach, Death Touch, Vigilance, and it's a 1/2 or
yeah. It's
whatever.
called Dragon Sniper.
Yeah.
It's a fine card, but it doesn't see much play. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't play it much. But I think in a world where at least one or two of the Spider-Man hero or Spider hero cards are good enough to be played outside of a spider deck,
Mm-hmm.
this becomes playable. Because if there is one that's green based or green white or whatever combination you're playing, green red, right? Now you have a creature that is just a reasonable 1 mana thing, but later in the game it's like, "Oh, okay, I'll just go find the other copy of this other card that's just playable and good."
Yep.
Right? And because I think that's the difference when I told people, "I think this card's kinda neat." They said, "Well, why do you like this and not the Dragon Sniper?" I said, "Well, it's not the Dragon Sniper's bad, but it's limited in its uses, right? It just gets to chump block something one time, and that's kind of the end of its story, right? Maybe it attacks once or twice and doesn't get blocked. But here, it's like, this can always do something if your deck is set up for it, right?
Yeah.
Later in the game, cool, I don't need a 1/1 Death Touch Reach, but I could use a 3 or 4 power thing that also
Yeah.
adds counters or destroys a thing or whatever it is. This can now kinda turn your deck into a little bit of a utility deck depending on
Yeah.
which of the spider heroes get played.
Toolboxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is a lot of the spider heroes have like an ETB trigger or like something that they do,
Yep.
So I like the idea, especially considering it's just a 1 mana investment. So what that actually makes this is a 3 mana tutor.
Mhm.
So like you draw it off the top of your library on turn 5 or 6, and now it can go get the spider punk or it can get whatever you need. And I think there is something to be said for that. It's just 1 mana,
Yeah.
even if you play it as the 1 mana creature, like it's still a really, really good chump blocker. It'll probably hold people off for a few turns, which might be the speed bump you need to get to the good stuff in your deck. There are very good things I think about this card too. And as far as I think people are a little excited about it just because of like what it is. Like, oh, it's the spider that bit Peter. And like I think it fetches like some price, but Probably not enough. Because I think this card could be good in standard too. And this is yet another one where I have to do the obligatory Lorwyn call out. We're going to Lorwyn soon. You can go and get, changelings, I guess, with
Yep.
this. So that's kind of neat. But even just in Spider-Man standard or whatever, I think there are plenty enough spider heroes to go and grab with this.
Just
Um,
here's a quick rundown of just like spiders we could go get, right? If you're playing Miles Morales, you can just go get him and put counters on things, right?
yep,
Or if you have the mana, you can just play the backside on these guys, whatever.
that's true. But with Miles Morales, that's especially good because that whole play is 4 total mana.
Exactly,
And
right?
that's pretty good.
Same
Yeah.
thing on the Scarlet Spider because you can web sling in for 2, right?
Yep.
So that's a thing. You have Silk, the web weaver, that also can web sling for 3 that you can go search for. So
Yep.
these all become very reasonable plays,
And
right?
those are all like on color too. Like you didn't have to go into some wacky color
That's exactly
combination
what
or
I'm thinking
anything.
about, right? You got
Yeah.
the Spider Girl is green white. You have Spider Ham, which can also pump up all your other stuff.
Yep.
So that's also just 2 mana.
That's actually a really good call to go get Peter Porker or whatever his
Hmm.
name is and to throw him into play. Like this goes and gets your anthem whenever you need it. And
Yeah.
that's great.
So there's
That's
a
really
lot of
good.
options, like I said, without having to stretch for too many colors. You're just doing green and something. These are all utility cards that could be useful. And again, before we even get to Lorwyn, right? Where some of the cards might actually have other abilities and happen to be changelings.
Yeah. Yeah, altogether, man, especially when again, like just bringing it back to this, it's all wrapped up in a 1 mana package. Like that's the initial investment in this card. That's great.
Yep.
It really is.
And worst case scenario, it's death touch. Your opponent maybe doesn't want to attack.
Maybe if you've got spider heroes in your Finn the Fangbearer deck, you got it's a death touch guy.
Yeah, I
It
was gonna say that's a
goes
little
well with
much,
Finn.
but all right.
Yeah, come on, we got to stretch these as much as possible. But yeah, good pick. Good pick.
All right, so now we're down to your number 1. What do you got?
My number one is actually this is a fairly expensive card right now. I think it's like $20 to get a copy of this, but I think that's mostly commander speculation because people want Arana, Heart of the Spider, in their command zone, but I want this card in my standard deck. This is 3 mana, 1 a red and a white for a 3/3 legendary spider human hero. Whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. So, as a reminder, equipment, auras, and counters are modifications. So, this is not exactly Luminarch Aspirant for 50% more mana. Luminarch Aspirant, I believe, puts a counter on a creature regardless of whether you attack.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, you have to attack. That is nominally worse, but not that much worse. We know for a fact that a +1/+1 counter on a creature every turn is by itself like a pretty good ability. And in this case, you also get to effectively draw cards. And I think that is about exactly the correct rate. 3 mana for this card. It does something the turn it comes into play, like 9 times out of 10. It'll give you the +1/+1 counter. And if you have extra mana left over after you get in with your creature or whatever, then obviously you can cast a thing. But what this does is importantly, it does something the turn it comes into play, already established. But if you untap with this in play and get to swing with a couple of different modified creatures, you get another +1/+1 counter. I think this snowballs really well. Gets you a lot of value. It is both like an anthem effect, kind of like a thing in your aggro deck that gets you more PT, but also gets you more cards. And those tend to be really strong. So, thoughts?
What I like about this is again, and really, I think this is something we're pointing out for this whole set
Hmm.
is this set for whatever reason. I don't know if it's to make the cards more useful because a set's smaller or whatever. We have more cards that don't have as much restrictive wording. You know what I mean? You
Hmm.
notice there's a lot of
Yeah.
cards like on this one. It doesn't say when 1 or more modified creatures you control the
Nope.
opponent. It's just
Nope.
if 3 of your things that have a +1/+1 counter on them hit your opponent, great, get 3 cards.
Yep.
Like that does make a difference on a card like this because you've put a counter on a thing last turn. Your opponent maybe blocked, maybe didn't. Next turn you attack, you probably make this a 4/4. So now this got to deal with this other 3/3 thing you have in this 4/4 at a minimum. And it's assuming you didn't play an equipment or put counters on stuff or whatever, that your deck's already doing across the board. This can be a real problem card. And it doesn't take long to get, even if you don't get a card, if you just get to play a 3/3, put a counter on something, and your opponent has to spend next turn killing this card, fine, right?
Yeah.
You still got something for your 3 mana.
Yeah, left value behind. Yeah.
But if you get even 2 cards off of this, you're already way ahead for 3 mana.
Yep.
It doesn't take a
Yep.
lot to make this card worth it.
That's kind of my point, that if you get even one card or one turn at full value with this card, then like you're probably pulling way ahead. If you get, like you said, you get 2 cards off of this in one turn, and you have all your mana open to you or whatever, then yeah, I think you can do a lot for you. It also kind of, for what it's worth, I guess it works with all the stuff both in the set and in standard previously that want you to play things from like anywhere other than your hand, or whenever you cast a spell from exile, do a thing. It works with all that, but honestly, I just kind of want to make it the 3-drop in my aggro deck
Yeah.
and kind of see where it goes. I think that it's just strong.
And let me be
Um,
clear. I said draw a card, but you get access to a card.
yeah,
But you knew what I meant. Yeah.
red draw
Yeah,
a card,
yeah.
right? I do that all the time too. It's like, oh, it draws a card. It does. Technically, this is drawing your cards. But yeah, in the kind of deck it wants to be in, you have a relatively low curve. So if you do get in with 2 guys and you draw 2 cards, it's likely you can play both of them or at least one of them. Just yeah, a card advantage and more power to like more board and more cards for 3 mana. I think that's a really good deal in an aggro deck. It's not priced out of being in the decks it wants to be in. So
I'm
altogether, yeah,
just saying, if I play a +1/+1 counter decks that can even splash this, I'm in.
it's on. Right. And or like, we haven't even talked about like red white equipments might want it if
Yeah.
that's a deck. If there's like a red white enchantress deck, I don't think there will be, but just these are thoughts to have. Naya Enchantress becomes a thing in standard. This is a pretty good 3-drop. So I don't know. It's fine. But what is your number 1? We are there already.
My number 1 makes me mad because it's a blue card, but because I already rant and raved about a blue card being so good. But honestly, if Hide on the Ceiling isn't the best blue card in the set, this one definitely has a chance to be the best blue card in the set, and it's Spider Sense.
I knew it was going to be Spider Sense. I
Yeah.
knew it.
I mean, why not? It's a colorless and a blue. It's an instant. It has web slinging of a blue, so you can return a tapped creature to your hand and just pay the web slinging cost. And then you can counter target instants, sorcery, or triggered ability.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. Like, okay, so first off, this stops so many, especially you're talking about older formats. Almost
Yeah.
all the spells are instants and sorceries or triggered abilities in some way, right? There's
Yeah, I
not
think
even
this is
that
like
many
the best.
activated abilities.
This is like the best card for Legacy in the set.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if this is the best card in the set. I have wondered that to myself a few times.
Because think about it, like people already want cheap counters, right? And a lot of times you're playing like Daze or Spell Pierce or something of that nature. If it's not a free one, like Force of Will or whatever, Pact of Negation, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But to get in a counter that starts at 2 mana, could be 1 mana, but also get the option of countering a triggered ability. Which, by the way, in standard, there are times where you're like, oh, I can't counter stuff because there's a Cavern of Souls or whatever. But I can still stop some triggered abilities. Right? You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, now granted,
And
this can't counter a creature anyway, but I'm just saying, like, this
yeah,
gives
I
you
can
the
stop
option
trigger
of like
abilities.
where
Right.
I'm playing the creature deck, I'm going, all right, well, they can't counter myself and they're not going to do anything. And it's like, oh, but now this thing exists, so I have to worry about that now too. Right? I'm not going to get all the abilities that I want.
This is yet another card that works just in standard really well in Pixie decks because it can pick
Yep.
back up a Pixie, which then picks back something else up or whatever. That's phenomenal. The fact that this can pick creatures back up and put them in your hand to repeat ETB triggers is something that like not enough people are talking about. That's really good. But just 1 mana counter spells, even when they have heavy restrictions on them, cards like Force Spike, Disrupt, obviously, Spell Pierce, which we have in standard right now, but even stuff like an Offer You Can't Refuse, like these are cards that went on to be like an Offer You Can't Refuse is such a good commander card that it's a random like $6 uncommon these days.
Mm-hmm.
1 mana counter spells, even when it comes down to like Mental Misstep and Spell Snare and Swan Song, these are like incredibly, limited counter spells. And they're still some of the, most well-known counter spells of all time because a 1 mana counter spell is almost always good. almost always a good Magic card. And you might be thinking like, this is a negate with extra steps, but honestly, even if you have to play it for its full mana cost, it's just like kind of negate. Like you're fine kind of doing that. You
It's
know what
not.
I mean?
It's better than negate in every way.
Yeah, yeah, it's just strictly better, right? Like,
Yeah,
is it
because
literally
negate
this?
says it can only stop non-creature spells.
Yeah,
This
but
this
well,
is
negate. I wouldn't say strictly then, right? This is instant sorceries, activated abilities, or
triggered abilities. Yeah,
triggered ability.
I
So I
mean
guess
you
it
can't
can't
stop
stop
an
like
artifact. I guess.
enchantments,
Yeah,
artifacts, planeswalkers.
but I
Yeah,
still like this better than negate.
for the most part, because
Yeah.
mostly with negate, you're countering the removal spell or the sweeper or whatever, you know. Um, and again, this is another one of those cards that like tempo decks. Tempo decks because they attack with creatures. They've attacked with their Flood Pits Drowner. You know, they've attacked with their Spyglass Siren. They have a tapped creature. They have Enduring Curiosities in their deck, so they have tapped creatures. And suddenly you can't blow them out with the Ultima. You can, you know, like
Yep.
this is fantastic if you're currently on attacks, if your opponent's trying to do something, or if it's, you know, opponent's turn to crack back after your attack step on their turn, the card becomes phenomenal. All kinds of tempo decks, any aggro deck with islands in it, will just play this card. Like,
Also, triggered abilities. When people are trying to think about, well, what am I countering? Pretty much every ability in the synthesizer deck,
yeah,
like play an artifact, get a thing, you just stop that from happening. Right? Anything, well, like the green creatures die, draw a card, blah blah, whatever. Like you can turn that off. Right? There's so many things that you don't even think about that this is going to affect. That I mean, when you're trying to keep your opponent from getting that one more card or one more token or draw a particular thing, like this just stops that situation from happening.
yep, entirely. You'd be surprised how often you can use that, especially in a format like Standard, where like a lot of decks include triggered abilities. Like, I imagine that if for 1 mana or even 2 mana, you can just stop their Soul Cauldron activation for the turn, then that'll turn the tide of a lot of games of Magic. So,
You know how often it
you
sucks
know,
to block
well, that's
a
an activated ability. But
yeah, but you know how often it sucks to block like a screaming nemesis because you don't want to
oh,
life loss.
that's a great
You
example.
can just
Yeah.
turn that off one time, and that might be all you need, right?
Yeah. I
So
mean,
many things.
any enter the battlefield trigger that they're counting on for the turn, even if it's something as simple as like Marauding Mako, like getting the counters, or Tersa Light Shatter discarding the cards and drawing the cards, you know,
Yep.
like this will stop a lot. ETB triggers just in particular are really important in Standard. And they almost always are. Like
Yeah.
regardless of what standard we're in.
I'd almost argue
Um,
that in the decks where you think this is going to be less useful, because you can't counter a creature necessarily,
yeah.
there will be a pile of triggered abilities that you could counter.
Oh yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean? It's
100%.
rarely going to be just dead.
I mean, think of how many times, think of how good Tashana's Tidebinder is.
Oh yeah.
Also, for that matter, think of how potentially good this card could be with Tashana's Tidebinder. Because you're just, you know, you're countering abilities like
Yeah.
crazy, you know, popping the Tidebinder back to your hand, and now you've got that. So their next triggered ability doesn't go off, you know, like that could be wild actually. So again, basically anything tempo oriented and even just some normal decks that happen to have both islands and creatures are gonna want this card. I was surprised when I looked at the price of this that it's not like through the ceiling.
Yeah. Because I will
It's
say,
actually
for people that don't know, as you get further back in Magic, the games become more about the spells even than the creatures.
yeah,
They become
yeah,
more about creatures the more modern you get in terms of Magic. So the older formats, this is a card exactly that they want.
yeah.
You know, giving you options to counter spells or triggered abilities, but you can also oftentimes do this for one. Awesome.
And a lot of those decks will play like 1-drop creatures so they can get this card online as quickly as possible. You know, you got your Ragavans and you've even got your like Delver of Secrets
Oh
decks that are
yeah.
still popular in those formats. So, you know, and those are creatures you're swinging in with. This is really interesting in terms of getting ahead because in the early game, you've attacked with a creature, you know, like, or at least you've succeeded in tapping one down. This works well with like Lawn War Elves, I guess, and stuff
Yeah.
like that
Birds of
too.
Paradise,
Yeah,
any of that
birds.
stuff.
Yeah. It's like for
Yeah.
the most part, though, you're probably going to be combining this with aggressive creatures you attack with relatively early. And you know, if your opponent can both, you know, like they don't get the removal spell off or whatever, and you also got an open attack with a creature, that's putting you way ahead. And, all the way back up to standard. If what you're actually doing with this is like getting in with a Flood Pits Drowner after you've stunned their guy, and then they try to kill one of your other dudes, pop the Flood Pits Drowner back to your hand, counter that spell, play the Drowner again. Like, that was a whole 3 mana, and it wrecked your
Actually, you know
whole
what's
turn.
funny?
Like,
Drowner is one of the few creatures we play in standard you can't use with this card
why can't you?
because it has vigilance.
Oh my god, it does have vigilance.
It's actually one of the few things we can. That and maybe the 3/4 Merfolk or whatever that makes
the guy that makes the map tokens,
Yeah.
Sentinel of the Nameless City. I completely forgot that. Man, I think that's why they put vigilance on Flood Pits Drowner. That would have been way too crazy of an interaction. But okay, the Flood Pits Drowner notwithstanding, they're still
I get what you're saying though.
really strong card in just about any format. But you're right that it gets better the farther back you go. Yeah, all day.
So yeah,
excellent pick.
I think those were 5 pretty interesting cards to talk about. I don't know, people might feel differently about them, of course, but if you want to let us know, please do so down in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions. And again, we're not just talking about like Universe Beyond, love it, hate it, whatever. We're just talking about the cards we talked about today and how you feel about them, or others we should have talked about. But you should also check out the other channel. So Dev, why don't you tell them where they can find you?
All right, so I'm over at SBMTG. It's strictly better MTG, but YouTube doesn't require you doing all that. Just put SBMTG in your search bar on the tube, and I will pop up with my big shiny dome. We just a second ago actually recorded the overrated cards in the set, so make sure you go check that out. But we've got the top 10 sleepers on my channel coming up, top 10 competitive cards, top 10 commander cards, plus deck techs and blood. So just like join us for Spider-Man season and beyond. There's a lot shaking up. And of course, just a couple of months from now, we're going to be hitting Lorwyn and then Strixhaven. We're going to be back into the Magic stuff. So make sure you come check me out for all of that stuff. But anyway, I'll turn it back over to my good friend, the Dragon.
Oh, there's not much left to say. Everybody knows, click all the buttons, do the things that make the dings that YouTube likes. And otherwise, remember to be awesome and be awesome to each other.